who did you vote for in 2016?
You know I can't answer that.
Anything else, Jim?
Who did you predict in 2020?
Joe Biden, and I was right on that one.
And do you think that?
Yes, I think Joe Biden did win. I do think Joe Biden won.
That is Republican strategist and pollster Frank Luntz on C-SPAN's Washington Journal program. He took on a caller who believes Donald Trump won the 2020 election and that Joe Biden and the Democrats stole the presidency from Trump. Luntz changed roles at one point in this exchange, and instead of simply answering the questions, he questioned the caller. Watch.
Before you cut him off, why do you think Donald Trump won?
Did you see the interference by Facebook in the election with Hunter Biden laptop? Was that something you acknowledge?
I don't think that.
What do you mean?
No, I'm not.
Let him answer, Jim.
Yeah, I'm not hemming and hawing. Jim, you have a point of view, and that's the problem, is that you're unwilling to see the evidence. You're unwilling to examine the facts. I've looked at this. I've gone and studied this. And here's our problem. The websites that have that the election was stolen, their stuff looks great. It looks professional.
In other words, the Trump voters were duped. They were misled by Trump himself. They were misguided by Fox News and other conservative media about the accuracy of the election count. And the Trump voters were fed a steady stream of misinformation across the conservative spectrum. Luntz, who is a nice and thoughtful guy, but has long been a foe of Democrats, underscored in compelling fashion a key reason that some of the lies seem to be able to stick. He pointed out it has to do with multiple ways that voters cast their ballots and the clear distinction between when Democrats generally voted in 2020 and when Republicans did.
Republican voters voted on Election Day. Democratic voters voted early. Republican voters don't trust absentee ballots. They don't trust early votes. So when they count the ballots on Election Day, Donald Trump won by almost 2-1. But so many people voted early, and those votes for Biden, that even though the votes were counted early were Trump votes, the votes that came in, the absentee ballots and the early votes, Biden caught up and he went ahead. And you could see he was going to go ahead. We have to change the way votes are counted in this country because it's going to give a false impression that one candidate was winning. Donald Trump is ahead at 1 a.m., but that's simply because his votes were counted. And it took a day or two to count all those absentee ballots. Pennsylvania is the best example. It takes them 4 days to count their votes. Hey, Pennsylvania, get your act together. It was clear that Biden was going to win, but it didn't look that way on election night. So voters like him legitimately think that Trump won, legitimately think that ballots were dumped. They were absentee ballots, but they were going to be more Democratic, more urban, more Biden. Because Democrats vote early and Republicans vote on Election Day.
This point has been out there for a while. It has often been misunderstood by the mainstream media and certainly by tens of millions of voters. And 2020 wasn't the first election in the modern era where the election night results seemed to favor a Republican, but a Democrat late at night caught up. Back in 2000, a lot of people may remember the George W. Bush versus Al Gore Florida recount that stretched on for weeks. But if you go back to election night itself in 2000, at 10 p.m. at night, it appeared that Bush had won the state of Florida. He was ahead in the Florida count by 120,000 votes. Fox News even called Florida and the presidency for Bush, and Al Gore even phoned George W. Bush to concede the election. At that point, all the Republican districts had reported their results, but some huge urban Democratic districts in Miami still had not counted or reported their vote totals. And when the votes finally came in for Miami-Dade County at around 2 in the morning, Al Gore caught up. He took away his concession and the state went to a recount that was eventually settled by the U.S. Supreme Court. And yet, because of the way Florida counted Republican districts before Democratic ones, the impression was always that Bush had won and Al Gore was simply trying to reverse that. It's the same principle Frank Luntz is talking about now. Election day voting results leave an impression that is often misleading because the results often don't include early and absentee ballots or some of those votes that were cast in urban districts that report late. And as long as Republican voters cast their ballots primarily on Election Day, and Democrats do it primarily through early and absentee ballots, there's going to be a conflict in running election night totals reported by the media, and the roller coaster ride of results will keep fueling public suspicions and keep undermining public confidence. Kudos to Frank Luntz for trying to explain it. By the way, partisan tensions in the U.S. House continue to grow, and recently Democrat Eric Swalwell trashed Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to his face. Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.